Joe, thank you very much for that. Most people, when they think of Doug Hart, and we're going to go through a real American hero first. Then you're going to hear about Callsign Longbow and RoboSkull, and then you'll hear a little bit about Recall at the end. Sound good? All right. So when everybody thinks about Doug Hart at Hasbro, the first thing that most people know of is this 1987 catalog, right? Now, to me, what stands out about this compared to what had come before it is the soft glow of it, the airbrush technique of it.
Right.
So why don't you talk a little bit about your prior experience at Hasbro and how you perfected the airbrush technique through jewelry.
Emblematic jewelry.
No, that's fine. You're good.
Don't take over to feedback.
If you want to turn 1 and 2 yes.
Am I already here?
And turn 3 up. Yeah. 3. Yep. There it is. Let's try that.
Yeah, so emblematic jewelry, which I designed everything from belt buckles and everything else. Matter of fact, I just started looking at some of my older stuff, my stuff that I did, and in 1981, I designed a belt buckle, and the belt buckle is Gunfight in the OK Corral. That was October 1st. Yeah, in 1981, that's what it happened. So I did a belt buckle, and it had you flip it over. It's like 24 karat gold. It's selling. But you flip it over, and you see my name in the back. It's kind of, so I am famous. At the time, don't get you a cup of coffee. Nobody even knows now.
Famous.
I got all the brochures and all. They sold the advertising in Playboy at the time. They were selling it for 24 karat silver, and then the plain bronze. But some of that was implemented, but it had to be done on paper. It had to be done in airbrush. So rings, medallions, coins. So it taught me how to use an airbrush. They are canvas most of this. So, but and we use watercolors and water, which is a lot easier. But then eventually I brought that with me with the Hasbro, the knowledge of it. And that's how come I became very popular doing My Little Pony, because I started using the airbrush coming around the structure of the
pony. Call it the rump.
And they like the rump. Yeah, yeah, so they started getting more slick stuff that they liked. But the other person was brilliant, trying to pony stuff, but she didn't do that. And I had a teacher, actually, I went up to Boston. She was showing me that, and then she was showing me how to do what it does. Dr. Martin, the dyes, kind of washes and stuff. So we use a combination. She showed me like she was trying to use an airbrush. When I went up there, she had like 5 or 6 of them all stuck together. It's a lot of maintenance to it. It can be a real pain, but you gotta know. But anyway, so that's when I started doing that. And then when I went into G.I.JOE, I told them I'm out of ponied out, so I'm going to do this. So I had to do samples to show that I could do it. And actually, we had one, but that was 2000. I got you the first speed that I did, and but I added a little airbrush. And a little.
Everybody get real close. Move into the closest seats.
You got me.
We're just going to project because for whatever reason we're having feedback, so let's not worry about it.
And this was one of my first ones.
Actually, I'm gonna back you up 1 year. We all thought of 1987 as Doug's first shot on G.I. Joe, but I sat there in your backyard from 10 a.m. God bless them until 6 p.m. We went through every softcover book and looked at every painting and tried to nail down what you worked on. And that's when I discovered that Doug actually worked on a 1986 product.
And then I transferred that into silver.
That's right. So 1990 Sky Patrol as well as 1986 Night Raven were both his babies. And it makes perfect sense if you think about the airbrush technique that he used, the smooth gradients from one to the other. And so that was a really good fit for him. Also in 1986, I mean, it rolled out spring of 87, but you clearly illustrated the fridge in 1986. And you can see here again, the airbrush technique on the legs and the arms, how soft the gradients, the transitions are.
Speed. Yeah, speed. You get it, because otherwise you have to kind of cross that with acrylics.
Yeah, if you're doing gradients with a brush, labor intensive.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah.
And that's the way Hector worked throughout the whole line.
Yeah, he's like a cross hatching type.
And Hector Garrido would also paint all the decals, all the lettering. He would just do that on the hands.
I've been in my own way. I could do a pay scale. I take a photograph in perspective, wherever it was, whatever the on the vehicle or whatever, and put it in perspective. Or take a photograph, make a print, you know, black and white, or and then paint, just tint it, whatever colors I need.
So let me, this took me a while to get, because we did the interview with him and I sat there and edited it. I'm trying to figure out, what is he saying that he's doing here? He was taking the decal sheet and then he put it on the model if he had it. He'd put the model in perspective. He'd photograph it that way. He'd print that photo and he'd cut that out and put it on his painting. So he wasn't doing the decals. He wasn't illustrating the decals. He was basically using photography like we use Photoshop now, like, you know, skewing and stretching and transforming. He was doing that by his own ingenuity by the late 80s. I thought it was brilliant. Because before that,
I didn't tell anybody either. It's kind of like, yeah. No, yeah, I'm not good. Just because I would spell it wrong. I would spell cognitive wrong too.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, I got to do it all over again. Yeah.
So Doug famously says that, you know, that he was dyslexic growing up. He hated school, hated reading, hated math, but he learned and spoke the visual language. It's your person.
That's the truth.
He's a visual person from day one. And what was it, Catholic school? They didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah. They thought I was like, they didn't know what to do.
Well, you said the nuns put you in a headlock and gave you a
No, that's when I was in the church. Anyway, I'm digressing, but yeah, so, but they didn't know. They didn't know anything about dyslexic. And the other person that I found out that had that, well, I don't know if I'm fully dyslexic. I just didn't give a shit. I really don't. I'm very focused on what I want to do. The other thing is like Drew Struzan. I don't know, anybody know that Drew Struzan that did all the benches and way back, movie posters. And I mean, beautiful stuff. He started with the Big Trouble in Little China. Yeah. So all of it. But how he works is he airbrushes and then he works colored pencil. And then there's a hard edge and stuff like that. But I've seen his stuff in person up in the Norman Rockwell Museum up in Stockbridge. And but he was there doing a lecture, and he started saying he had a problem being dyslexic because it's a visual learner. You're using the, which I found out after, so I'm not that you're just using the different thing, and you know that's what happens. But he was too, so that's more so diagnosed with it. Me, I just, like I said, anything that and of course everything that I hated, they do now, like typing, you know, anything like that. But I just stayed on course.
So he had done some vehicles like the Night Raven. He had done the catalog art like 1987 that I just showed you guys. Your first opportunity to do card backs for the figures, because Hector Garrido, and he always says, Ed Morrill had that thing locked. Ed Morrill was the packaging firm, Coleman, Lacuma, Siegel, and Morrill. Ed Morrill is the Morrill in that. Ed Morrill came on with G.I. Joe in '69, hired Don Stivers, and did all the Adventure Team art from '70 to '76. And then when they started, they did Super Joe too, but we're not talking about that today. And then G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, when they rebranded in 1981 to launch in '82, he went back to the same artist agency, Mendola, and he found Hector Garrido. If you look at the Art of G.I. Joe book, you'll see some mid-1970s books that Garrido did that had explosion backgrounds, and I think that's where they pulled the explosion background from for A Real American Hero. But Ed Morrill and Hector Garrido, they had it locked for the first 6 or 7 years. By 1988, they started using a couple freelancers. Doug and I were identifying those guys. Earl Norham is a definite for several of the package paintings. Actually, the accessory pack, Chris Murray has the line art for it, and it's signed by Earl Norham. So we have these hypotheses, and then we go about collecting data and trying to either confirm or deny them. So Earl Norham definitely did some package art, in addition to the Marvel books that he did, which are beautiful, several things. We're lucky to have some Norm Joe stuff. But like he said earlier, he was seeing the Garrido stuff coming in, and he was angling for it. So why don't you tell him? You're just wedging yourself in there, right?
So I had to learn how to use acrylics too.
That's right.
And used it before I used wash.
So they wanted continuity. So you had to kind of master Hector's technique,
That's right.
which is where being an artistic chameleon really came into play.
With people using acrylics,
Yeah.
and then using it in an airbrush either. A lot of people, oh, I can't do that. It's kind of dry quick. But you learn how to clean, and that was my background. And spraying a little bit, cleaning, taking the needle out, you know, like that. Just kind of then keep going, keep going.
That's what you had to teach the My Little Pony lady. Spray clean, spray clean.
That's right. So I learned how to do that. I still do it now. Actually. I'll like any figures that he gives me, I'll do the whole. I'll airbrush it first in black or whatever color, just to get it on there. So you're killing all the white. You did it by hand, but these little like pockets, little, go around it. It's always going to come back on you. So I spray over the whole thing and with acrylics, and then that stuff come back to highlights and stuff. Very, very quick. The reason I do it quick is that I want to get to those little highlights at the end of the paint, which is the most fun.
So the Battle Force 2000, there were 6 of these guys, right? And he did the 2 on the left, Blaster and Avalanche. Garrido did Blocker and Dodger. And then he also did Knockdown.
Yep.
And Maverick, actually. So he did 4 of the 6. I misspoke. He did 4 of the 6.
That's when I started actually using some reference to that's right. That guy worked at Neil.
Perlmutter?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Perlmutter? Yeah. So he had some of his friends at Hasbro already taken reference photos, but wasn't this with a POS piece of junk camera at first? He didn't have a great camera. They didn't get a photo studio in-house until maybe 1989. And so you'll notice Doug Hart's packaging art in the early 90s takes off like a rocket towards this like all new visual style. He really makes the brand his own with these photorealistic portraits. And I've got 1 or 2 examples of that. But so this is one of his first paintings. And so in the book, you'll see 4 pages dedicated to Doug Hart, gleaned from our interviews together to introduce him. But he stuck around all the way through the end of the line. This is one of the rare pieces I wanted to show. This was only released in Europe. This was painted as a puzzle collage. So it's broken out into quadrants and was released in 4 puzzles. It was released in Europe in 1991 and Greece as a candle box that literally came with a candle and then one of the Air Commandos gliders and a figure in 1992. Unfortunately, you know, he did this for Milton Bradley for what, 2 or 3 months? How long did it take you?
Yeah, it was part-time actually.
He was doing it nights and weekends and he got paid extra.
Yeah. Okay.
He could do freelance and make good money on the side.
Speed. It's called speed.
That's a hustler.
He hustles. And he's still hustling now for us. So we appreciate it. This is an
If
example.
anybody needs any artwork, just let me know.
That's right. All right. Just give them thousands, not hundreds. Don't be cheap. All right, so this is an example of photo reference. So this was hit with like a 3-point light with a rim light. This is actually old brand manager from 1990 to 1994, Vinny DeLevia. And it looks just like Vinny, except for the scar and the receding hairline. Was his hair that far back by then?
I think maybe I could have had some.
It might have been embellished, but he definitely wasn't all silver like that.
I did that scar. Yeah.
He was black haired. Vinny's a good looking guy. This is just, you know, this is Vinny at his worst.
But reference, I mean, even the figure that he's jumping like that.
Yeah.
I got that from, they had like the licensing on, and they had like from Marvel, not Marvel, but it would be Batman. So it would be DC. So they had licensing on, very nice clean line drawings, and that's Batman.
Nice.
And so I used that. I said, yeah, I wanted to get him more aggressive. That was my thing. And then eventually more violent too. So it's,
Thank God for Ninja Force.
yeah. It kept going, and that's how I decided to get it.
Now, he very, very rarely got to do environments, right? This is one of the rare pieces. This actually wasn't released. It's a C set, which repurposes the Barracuda and the Cobra Piranha and Deep Six Mail Order version 3, the Dolphin from the previous Deep Six. That's actually 1994. Blanking on Shipwreck. Thank you. But that's a preliminary design of Shipwreck because it doesn't look exactly like the final design. So we don't have a solid answer what year this was made. I would postulate that it was made in maybe 93 because the mail order Deep Six ended up coming out without the Dolphin, just as a single mail order figure for no good reason in 93. And then Shipwreck was held for another year, which would explain the design being revised a little bit. So anyway, I think this was made around 93, but we don't know. Yeah, okay. So they had the mold, they were getting ready. This is part of the interview with Vinny DeLevia. I thought if anybody would know that he would know. He said, no, it was probably actually the direct mail people, the Hasbro direct people that were trying to put together a product, and maybe this would have been used for a catalog, is where Vinny ended up on this. And we talk about these things in depth. Like I said, we form theories, and then we talk to people, and we try to either confirm or deny. And, you know, my thinking evolves a lot on this stuff, y'all. When I did the 6 softcover books, I wrote some things in there back then that I wouldn't write now because I'm better informed, right? Because I've spent a lot more hours with you guys and gotten a lot more answers.
Coming back, man, and LSD flashbacks. especially that puzzle one.
Yeah.
So it didn't end because it's every vehicle, every figure, from like, I don't know, 10 years. I don't know how many.
The crazy thing is that 1990, the catalog art is horrible. I'm gonna just go to 3D Joe's real quick, go to print, and then there's a section called catalogs and offers, right? This is the catalogs for every year. Look how visual it is. Look how much they prioritized cool painted artwork, right? And then look at 1990, sticking out like a sore thumb, the double and embossed logo. He made this brilliant collage of every 1990 vehicle and figure, and we got a double and embossed logo. I'm still pretty disappointed about that. The lucky people over in Europe got it on puzzles. So anyway,
I didn't know that. Anybody, but yeah.
so we could talk all day about Real American Hero, but I didn't want to limit it to just that. Obviously, we've got our friends here and wanted to talk about their current experiences in working with Doug, creating new action figures. So that's my segue.
I'll start. I'm gonna talk there. So, you guys. So I'm with Skeletron, and so when this whole project started, we actually I actually was drinking IPAs during COVID late at night. Troy, and I said, Troy, you know, we're going to be launching this Robo Skull Kickstarter, but I really want to get as many people in the community together in on it. And so, as we know, we can be factions, you know, like no ring purists and the 4-inch and the 6-inch. We had the 4-inch and the 6-inch covered, but we didn't have an O-ring. Like, I knew Troy was going to be launching Longbow, and of course, he had already engaged Doug and was, you know, had that locked in to get this vintage aesthetic and to really bring back that 80s vibe. So I said to Troy, what would you think about a stretch goal? We kind of get off to a start, but that be good? Troy's like, yes. And I'm like, all right, we're doing it. So then we went through that process together to do an O-ring as part of the Skeletron and then the Robo Skull Kickstarter, which ended up being awesome. And then so I just got to come along for the ride because Carson and Troy here are doing the homework, doing the research. Troy's locked in on Doug already. So I just got to pick up the phone and have great conversations with Doug about what we wanted to do. And I got to tell you guys, Doug is and he's trying to be like a hot sore hard ass. He's the nicest guy you can ever talk to. I mean, you have to have a lot of. He's just.
We went to growing pain for that figure right there because you wanted him jumping and leaping, and I go, no, you can remember, and it was just they had to come up, they had to go down, they had to go up, and he's happy guy back here. And finally, I said, I took a shot of myself in the mirror, holding something, anything, to get that sword right, to get the wrist and the elbow and everything else. That's how you do it. So that we solved the problem.
Yes, we did. And the one story, we really just wanted it to be perfect for you guys. So that's yeah. But it is a process because this stuff is precious to us. You know, when we think about, when I think about when I was a kid, I was 5 years old and walked into a hardware store, and it was the G.I.JOE. It was the artwork that drew me to the peasants. It wasn't the little figures. So for me, what Doug does to bring these characters to life on that card back is such an important part of my childhood, and it's such an important piece of the whole puzzle. For me, it's not just the toy; it's the toy on the beautiful card back and Doug's art that brought it to life. Because those vintage toys, we love them because they're nostalgic. That's what we know. But I think a lot of you are probably like me. When I was playing with those toys, I was thinking about how badass the character looked on the card back.
Definitely with Scarlet.
Right, the actual voice weren't always as dynamic as the amazing artwork.
Yep.
So for me to have the opportunity to work directly with Doug to bring that to life was just a really amazing and fulfilling part, because it is so important when we're thinking about what this is, which is mostly us 40-plus-year-old guys that are nostalgic for those great things. And it's such a key part of it. So it's for me, the best part was Doug was so nice. It's so earnest. It's so easy to work with. And so we did 2 pieces, and then Doug actually, he's checking out what we're working on. He called me up. He's like, I'm so excited. I know we didn't talk about it, but check this out. He painted a whole Robo Skull and showed it to me. And I was like, yeah, I'll buy that. I'm going to put that on the card. So again, he's hustling. He's on.
And you need a lot more.
Yeah. So he started talking to me about it while we're waiting to get up here about like what's next. So we're going to be doing. So Skeletron's going to be working more with Doug in the future, of course. And then and I guess we've not talked about this, but Doug's already also done a couple pieces that we haven't talked about at all. Top secret. So keep it zipped there, Doug. But that'll be coming down the road. So that's.
I did notice that your figures are doing pretty well on the resale market. You're $71.
Yeah. So those sold out. That's the Wolf Trooper art. That one sold out, which was amazing. But we had already run a variant card back because so that was the other thing I needed on the card back. This is a convertible 2-in-1. So it converted into Skeletron. So it had a head swap and different accessories. So I had Doug paint both versions. But then when we put the card together, it's like, well, then we just get the little Skeletron in the box. And so we secretly ran an extra overrun of variant card backs, which are now at for the first time on the JOEFEST floor here today.
And the assembly of the figure's different, right? They swap the heads.
Yeah, the head swap's the same product, but it comes with the Skeletron head assembled on the ball.
Got me for 2 of them.
Yep. Well, hey, you can always flip them later. The eBay market.
So they've done what? 2 figures together, variant card backs, right?
Yep.
Troy, you want to talk about? You guys have done 11.
Yeah. So we've done a lot more. So for me, I'm a little younger than some folks that come to JOEFEST. I wasn't born until '83. So like the '90s was when I first started buying Joes on my own, right? When I would save up my own money and I would buy figures on my own. And Doug did all of that, right? So the kind of core memories for me of seeing Joe's in the store were of Doug's art. And Ben was absolutely right. The art sold the figures. And I've said this on a number of podcasts and things that we've been on. The whole thing for me with Longbow, like the high I've been chasing my entire adult life is when you were a kid and you came into the store, there wasn't internet, right? We didn't know about stuff ahead of time. You just came into the store one day and there were brand new G.I.JOE figures hanging on the peg. And that was a great feeling. That is what I have been chasing. But when you would grab that first figure, you would immediately turn it over to look at the cross-bell on the back to see all the other characters. Those weren't pictures of the toys, though. That was pictures of Doug's art. Because that's what sold those figures. And like, I love that. That's a great memory for me as a kid. And when we went to go do the art from Longbow, we had a couple of options. There were we commissioned a couple other artists to do to do some samples for us to take a look at. But then Carson was nice enough to make the introduction with Doug, and as soon as that was on for one, yes, Doug, you won.
Reward for good work is more work.
Absolutely, right? Yeah.
In all industries.
And it was fantastic. It's been an amazing process working with Doug. Kind of managing on that side, making sure he gets the materials he needs, the reference for the figure, and Doug's very detail oriented. He worries about the tangents on the art. We've talked about tangents where pieces cross each other and making sure that they look correct more times than I can count. He has a great focus on the lighting and how the rim lighting works around the outside edge of the figure. So it's been an amazing process working. For us, Doug's done the 11 figures in our initial run that we did as part of the Kickstarter. We also did the invisible battle scenes, and that's got a battle scene in front. What you guys see is a battle scene across there. But Doug actually painted multiple pieces for that we then composited together. So he painted Lancer and Bolt fighting, and he painted the other characters individually and then the background by itself, and we combined all of those.
For the battle stand.
For the battle stand, yeah, because that, unlike all the normal figure art that has to be, oriented portrait, we needed something wide and landscape, but we also didn't have the size of the bubbles quite nailed down, so we needed something that we could adjust and kind of play with the size of the characters. So that worked out really well. That's amazing art on those battle stands. If you haven't seen them, we've got some down in the booth. Again, kind of like Ben said, Doug's already working on our next round of product. He's finishing up the fourth one that we haven't shown yet. And as long as Doug wants to do it, we want Doug doing the art on the Longbow figure. So, it's been a great experience. He is one of the nicest guys to talk to.
Did you see me at home? Oh, man.
Yeah, he doesn't curse me out too much.
I know how to, when I paint, I know how to change stuff. A lot of people don't want to do that. It's my background, but be touching on greeting cards or whatever, I know how to use the medium to change things. So,
Yeah, I'll say Doug is more than happy to make revisions. We do a process.
Well, Ben had one with the illustration of the battle scene.
Troy did battle scene, yes.
No, when the eyes and the guy, what's his name, the Longbow figure, he wanted to change it. He looked like he was on cocaine.
That was wrong.
Sober that guy.
I want to emphasize how it's like a little bit, right? And then it's, geez, I think I don't want to
cocaine
change that. Say, Troy, you want the cocaine look or you want the regular?
He did Headman, who was the drug dealer for the DEF, the evil headhunters, and that illustration is amazing. Like the dude's got bad pores, he's got rotten teeth, he's drooling a little bit.
Right.
His fingernails are coming at you, and the fingernails are gross. Like this is disgusting.
Yeah, it was the first pass on the tracksuit henchman, and he was screaming, and he was really screaming, really screaming. So yeah, we toned that down so it was a little more angry and a little less cocaine.
So this resurgence with Doug actually started back in 2020. Well, I started working with Ron Rudat we were just going to do one figure. It was going to be a chapter in the book, The Art of G.I.JOE Real American Hero. And so the one chapter was going to be the art of action figure design, and we're going to go through the whole process. And of course, Doug was who we commissioned to do the package art for that. That went so well, and the end product was so good that I said, it doesn't have to end here. Let me take this idea out to the community. And I paid for that 17 grand out of pocket. It was just an investment in the book, but I couldn't keep doing that. So I went out to the community, we raised a bunch of money, and we got our Operation Recall off the ground. At the same time, Troy had already started Callsign Longbow, and that's when Troy came to me and said, Martello's pretty damn good. Why don't we get it? And I'm like, yeah, you should. And so now we're here. Fast forward 2 years later, and the man has been busy. And that's honestly like one of my proudest parts of being part of this community is when we can take people like Doug and plug them right back in. This is your first convention, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to come back. I love Augusta too. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I picked him up at the airport yesterday, and she was like sitting up on the wall, just kind of kicking his feet.
And it's better than flying.
Yeah, that's right. The airplane was cold.
Beam me up, Scotty. That's what I'm waiting for. Instead of flying.
So I just want to show you guys the kind of beginning of where we started with the Ron Rudat illustrations, and then the Kirk Bazikian markup, and then the revised art from Rudat, and then the presentation art from Rudat. And so then we skipped past all the 3D accessories, guys, not really relevant to this conversation. Did sketches with Ed Morrill, who's the old packaging guy from 69 to 89. So he's doing the sketches for our package. I had to do photo reference for this at Doug's request. So I'm outside of my garage with my rifle.
I don't normally get that.
I'll show it. There it is. You asked for it. Okay, so this is the process for Rotella. I thought you guys might enjoy seeing this. This is how, I don't know if he does this many rounds with you guys. Let me know. And it might have just been Rotella, because I feel like I got more rounds of reviews from you for Rotella, but it's that I'm not going to talk about that too much. We started with line art, and then refined line art with the accessories all kind of modeled in. And then we ended up moving the little visor up so we could see more of the facial expression. And he started refining the pencils and refining them further. You can see the gun and the drone start to really come together. And then he started to lay color down. And the whole time he was just sending me these photos. It was amazing. Like every time I get anything from any of these guys, it makes my day. So then he sent me that, we were getting more and more polished. And I was like, my dad used to wear those Vietnamese tiger stripe fatigues in Vietnam back in the day from the mountain yards. And so we added tiger stripe fatigues on the pants. Doug is happy to do this. Like, you just give him an idea. It's like, yeah, sure, we can do that. That's fine. Medium, very giving. Yep. Manipulated. So that's where we ended up with Rotella. Well, then we added a little heads-up display. So you still see the expression, you still see the eyes, but you have the visor still.
You're right here, but with the drone, stop. Area. I mean, it's just like, I think they use it now to carry a pigeon.
I appreciate it. They used carrier pigeons in World War II.
Great idea.
What's up?
Does everybody know here the history of Carson with the carrier pigeon? And what 6-year-old boy didn't want to carry your pigeon animal for candy?
That's right. It's an idea. It was time by the tongue. And then came back around 3 years later because so I sent it into Hasbro in 1989. They sent me a very nice rejection letter, but a rejection letter nonetheless. And so 30 years later, after I manipulated my way into having friendships with these guys, I said, let's make a figure. And they said, yes. It's been cool. All right, so I'm going to pass around your original things. Please pass them all the way down and really get back. He's going to count them. So. 4, 5, hands out, 6, 7. All right. So just pass it around. I wanted you guys to get a chance to see his work right up close, right? That's kind of risky. We've spent a lot of money on those. They belong to other people. So just make sure they get back up here. But there's nothing, you can't appreciate his work even from a book like mine that's like high quality assets, very nicely printed. You cannot appreciate it like having his work in hand and seeing the level of detail that he accomplishes. So your current technique, you're using acrylics and airbrush and color pencils on top, right?
I can, yeah. I started using, like for instance, the wrestler that I was just mentioning. You wanted every in the Gatling gun.
Who's got the wrestler?
Yeah. What's his name?
Hold up the wrestler so everybody can see him. His name is Soul Eagle. So he's a luchador wrestler by David.
Pretty cool design there.
There it is.
Direction from him, he says to me, he wrote it down. He wanted every Gatling.
All barrels firing at the same time. I know it doesn't work that way.
I gotta do this. Okay, paint. We're gonna cross over one from the other. So I use a prism color. So up, and I'll just use that. I'll scrape right across, and it's transparent, so you can see right through it. So that's how I did that. So now I'm starting to use a little bit more. Like the new figure. Can you talk about the new figure, Tank?
Tiger Tank? Let me pull it up. Let's segue real quick to
that's my project. I want to show people.
We'll definitely show
I did.
We'll show how I did. We'll show him. So I did want to show, this is a very interactive process And so one of the things that I give to Doug is a kickoff packet when we start the project. So it's got, run through that final line art, it's got his color study, we've got a lot of details about the accessories. If I've got the figure sculpted, he gets photos of the figure sculpt. We want the art to as closely match the final product as possible. This is a figure sculpt sheet, turn around with colors. And let me scroll down a little bit. Ed Morrill gives me this little sketch right here. Right? That comes from the packaging guy. He used to get thumbnail sketches like this to Hector Burrito. Now, nobody gave sketches to Doug when he was at Hasbro, so kudos to Doug for allowing me to give him this kind of feedback that he didn't really get at Hasbro back in the day. But I wanted to follow the early 80s process, incorporating Ed Morrill into the process. So we have these thumbnail sketches, and then I got these maquettes with different accessories, and we shoot a bunch of photos, and I go back and forth with Ed Morrill. And sometimes the idea changes, like in this one, the sketch really doesn't match the photos because I was shooting what Ed was giving me, and the rifle didn't have good visibility. It was a Remington with no handle, and it looked kind of stupid. So we do.
I said that.
So we do.
I've never seen a rifle like that.
Never seen a rifle.
I just want to mention that Doug definitely could work with a lot less.
Yes.
Yeah. And we're not giving it nearly that much.
I'm detail oriented. All right. This is the process.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but that's right.
Tell me right off.
That's right. I don't know.
So this is a photograph of the maquette, the accessories, and just a Photoshop. Just threw all this stuff together. But a fun photo of a rabid raccoon. He's got a sidekick named Wilson. So then this is the initial line art coming to Doug. And then this is the kind of more attentive, detailed feedback that I give. So all this green stuff here is me indicating like where different cosmetic details will be. And so I kick that back over to Doug, and then bam, you get a beautiful painting. Who's got Wilson? Who's got the raccoons out there in the crowd? Didn't walk off, did it? There it is. So there's that painting. Hopefully everybody can have a look at it. It's insane the level of detail. When I first went to Doug's house and picked up these paintings, I specifically remember looking at Wilson. The detail, the texture on the raccoon is just insane. Level of detail. And that was colored pencil.
That was fun. Even you gave me the mean look.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I was thinking Elf where the raccoon attacks them. Yeah. Wanted that.
Right. Yeah.
But is that covered on the website?
This is on social media. So if you guys have a desire to see a lot of detail about Operation Recall, I'm very retentive about documenting process. I think it's as important as the final product to see how we get there. So that's one of the things I really enjoy. So I tend to post stuff like this on the Operation Recall Facebook and Instagram pages quite a bit. And this is this is actually 3 guys. Let me open this up real quick. All right, so this is Dark Reapers, and you can see there the photo maquette, and then Doug's first pencils, and then my green markup, and then there's the Ninja with the original sketch, and then I think I actually ended up shooting some more reference photos and then giving some more line art. So yeah, this is just a process that we go through back and forth, very collaborative. So, what questions do you guys have today? Why don't you grab it and bring it up here?
Oh, that, yes.
Let's talk about it.
The,
Let them have a look at it.
I did want to mention as he's talking, that the reference and the color of the bow. I'm going, well, what color is the bow going to be? Like tan, like it's going to be black. Is it going to be? My favorite color is blue. So I said, what the heck? I'll paint it blue. And they do the composite bow. That's what they call it. They are crazy because they're off center. So I had to look at all the reference, try to follow the reference. They're kind of off center. Because you can write rest, and I had to figure out it was tough because I had to figure out which side the arrow was going to be, depending on how you're going to put the thing. But it's very intricate, these things. You have to spin the thing, and the lines are done with colored pencil. I don't any opaque paint that. And he was the whole thing in the back of he's got a cloak that's reversible, which is kind of nice. Yeah, think about it. But that's when he said, well, let's put black on it. I said, that's a great idea. That was his idea. Yeah, I think it made.
So I really like how they're starting to work some of the environments. You guys want to talk about the decision-making process about where does the explosion start and where does the world end? You know?
Yeah, so this piece, this one, we weren't sure where we wanted to go on the adapters because this is a Kickstarter exclusive in our line, and that means that it comes back, so it doesn't come on a card back. We needed to do art for file cards, but because we knew we were going to do a full painting, not just the upper body, and we knew it didn't have to conform to the normal space of the card back, we could do something different with the pose. And in this case, we decided we were going to have him kind of, punch down a little lower than you would normally see on a card back. And it gave us the opportunity to play with a little bit of the environment where he's kind of standing on the hillside. And
it's not unprecedented. I wanted to pull up Hardball really quick. And there's several other examples like this, like Outback 1987, where you give them something to stand on.
Yeah, a little bit of rock work, maybe a little bit of snow if it's an Arctic guy. It just kind of depends on the character and the pose you're going with. Hit and Run from the original line is a great example of that because he's hanging off the side of a mountain. And you got to have something there so he's not just hanging on a rope.
Yep.
Yeah, you can see it there where he's
Just scaling it.
yeah,
Or repelling it.
yeah. So, sometimes that's nice, and I tend to think it's nice to have a little bit of a mix of things, right? I don't want to do the same thing on every package, and I don't want to have Doug have to paint the same thing over and over again.
It's such a delicate balance because then you don't want him to paint a background if you're not going to use it either, right?
Right, and Doug paints beautiful background stuff.
Yes.
Like I said, on the battle stand, with that battle stand we got downstairs, he painted a whole mountain range for that, and we cropped the sky out because we didn't have that much space on the top. And he painted the sky and everything, and he found these great reference photos of mountains over in Europe somewhere that he used for those. And
So I got it from the soundtracks, and I found a photograph off the TV.
off of one of the music channels on the TV. Yeah.
Soundscapes. And they have very soft music. I listen to soft music when I it's not ZZ Top. Yeah.
Unless you're doing the cocaine guy. Anybody else have questions for Doug?
Who was the reference point for jetpack?
Who was the reference point for the jetpack? What?
Model.
For which one?
Jetpack.
Oh, let me see it. Can you hold it up?
Oh, I don't know. I know what you're saying. Yeah. And she's got a nice figure, doesn't she?
Well, you made it that way.
I was told that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another secret.
Actually, I do remember that kickoff packet. That's just a lady I found online.
I didn't know what it was.
I found her online. I gave him some headshots. So people that don't have masks on, I do try to provide headshots for him because he loves photo reference. So like one of our guys, Brandon Lee, that we recently did. We try to give him.
Yeah, which I didn't use. I actually used Keanu Reeves.
Right.
If you look up Facebook, all of a sudden he's got this. Have you seen him yet on Facebook of Keanu Reeves? It's new. So I there was one of him with glasses and stuff like that. Fit in. And I said, oh, that's pretty good. But I thought there wasn't enough face to use Brandon Lee.
This was Christopher Reeves when he first painted this guy.
And the other guy with the sailor with the mustache, Omar Sharif from Dr. Survivor.
Another famous actor.
That's all I had. I had Superman magazines, and Christopher Reeve got the great face. And then I had a profile, where else am I going to get it? Of Dr. Survivor, the book that's from the movies. So I had that, I used that. So that's Omar Sharif. And the other guy, the kids. He's buried underneath the mat.
Quick question: is Longbow or RoboSkull selling the original paintings? Are y'all in those?
We have no, Skeletron has no plans to part with those things.
Yeah.
They're currently residing with me in my house. It's one of the bennies.
One of the benefits to starting your own company.
You keep the pre-production.
Yeah, and I am buying pre-production from, I'm also buying pre-production from Operation Recall. They're going to my collection.
Which one are you getting?
I got some stuff from Mr. David's, yeah, the second one. Yeah.
So, I was gonna, all right, so, quick tip, if you haven't backed Operation Recall, go to operationrecall.com, click on the backer kit link, and when you're looking through the different things that are available, you're gonna see Doug Hart paintings. There's still some available for $1,500 gets you not only the painting, but also the full run of figures. That's a stupid good price, in my opinion, for a Doug Hart painting. So those are available. We're also doing pre-production folders of Ron Rudat and Mark Pennington's whole process. I'm talking like 20, 30 pages, loose sketches, revised line art, color studies, sculpt sheets, engineering drawings, accessory engineering drawings. That whole run is $1,500 as well. So we still have some of those. I think we've sold like half of them. So just get into operationrecall.com, go to the backer kit and select its reproduction, either a Doug Hart painting or a Ron Rudat Mark Pennington reproduction run. So any other questions for Doug? He is happy to sign stuff for you. He's at the show downstairs. He'll either be at Troy's booth or mine. He's having the time of his life at his first show. Thanks for being here, Lauren.
Well, the whole line, so there had to be like at least, I don't know, I'm thinking like maybe 12 figures or more, maybe. Penny the labor came up with the idea to use it.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like done. I don't know if it was Japanese things and stuff like that. Right. And Vinny came up with he wanted like going through like the 8 minutes out time of trying to get something to use a different technique. But he showed me what he wanted was a transformer. It was done in wash. So it wasn't slits. So I said, right. So it's done. Those are done in wash. Do you recognize this one? Yes. All right.
Dave, do you know how many he did? You just wanted to find out if he also knew.
I think like the entire line he did the others.
This is an example of Doug Hart's work on Beast Wars for Transformers. So again, he was at Hasbro from 1984 to 1999. So when G.I. Joe went away, I think Beast Wars came pretty shortly after that, and that was one of the big lines that he did a lot of.
When I left, that guy.
Right.
The following line, and you could tell that he was like one basic guy. Just the logo, no character.
That sucks. Yeah. But yeah, you guys can see the level of detail that he was getting in back then on Beast Wars. Yeah, that's pretty incredible stuff. I wasn't even going to plug this. This guy, Carl Hartman, just sent me an image of this and said, hey, do you know who did this? And I said, I think Doug Hart did Beast Wars. And we just confirmed Doug Hart did this. Carl Hartman. I don't. This is dumb luck. He sent this to me 2 days ago. He's looking for a buyer. So everybody flood Carl Hartman with your low dollar offers. He asked me what it should go for. I'm like, maybe a couple thousand. I don't know Transformers art. I know like a tertiary G.I. Joe character from the 1990s sold for like $7,000 that I just talked to somebody about. So who knows? I don't know Beast Wars. People ask me this stuff. I don't know why they think I know. Not an auction.
Sorry, this is going to be available at next week.
Okay. There you go. There, so you go to BotCon, people, if you want this, and tell Carl that Carson sent you. And that he plugged him at his panel for no reason. I was not prompted to do this.
Well, you'll take your commission.
But no, since he asked about the Beast Wars.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else? Azuka?
Yeah. The acrylic, doing the acrylic first, it's on the top. You find it hard to get the pencil, it's too soft on the top of the acrylic. When you're doing, like, what's your process for that?
With using colored pencil on top.
of the acrylic. Yeah.
If it has, it'll stick.
Yeah.
And it's kind of transparent too.
Yeah.
So I've started to use it just to fill in certain areas.
like that.
'Cause
But it does take. The other one I just did, bring up tan. All right, you gotta see tan. It's all right, so how I did this, it's color pencil, but I work back on. Now, the other thing, there's two surfaces of, I use Strathmore. So anybody gonna use any kind, it's the best board, and it's 100% rag, and it's not laminated, it's thick. And so it's the best. And you can get it like G.I.JOE's or something like that. And Blick will sell, I think, I don't know if you have it around here, or whatever, you can get it online. But it's one board, it's 20 by 30, it's like $20. But it's worth it. But there's two surfaces. So to help your Prismacolor question, there's two surfaces of plate surfaces, slicky, smooth for airbrushing, better. But that also, if you airbrush it, you can go across it because it's building up a tooth on it. So you don't. I like the smooth surface. There is a toothy surface that you can add real more details with pencil or dry brush or stuff like that. So there's two surfaces, so you can try out both of them and use your color pencil. I bring up.
So this is a Clanker and Tank. It's the card back that has the least amount of space for the art. And also Doug's favorite painting right now. So this is
It's a T-shirt. I mean, I was like,
yeah, we're gonna make trading cards and prints.
who can make a photo so exciting?
He's gonna get. So look at the face on this little guy. He's the sweetest little guy. Look at this little guy.
Keep going, get the eye. The eye.
Oh, you want- really
I
need it.
had to get the eye.
I mean, he's a happy we gotta give a shout out to Bobby. This is his character design that he originally submitted to the,
So how I did it was.
all right, Bobby.
Big scales up. Scales at the top, and it's a technique you can use. And with Prismacolor, I was wanting to use Prismacolor. Is I took it and I don't use Frisket papers when I do airbrushing or anything like that. I make a stencil and then I make it on paper. I keep my paint dry, and I have it dry in case it starts to get wet and stuff. But what I do is I spray green on it, very transparent. Then I took an electric eraser, tiny electric, and then started hitting those areas, highlight them. And then, so I didn't get anal with kind of like, you got in there and started going every little scoop. Then you get lead all over it too, so you get rid of that. So that way is a good technique. Kind of, it pulls off the color a little bit slightly. Then you spray over it again. And then you kind of get back and forth. And that's how I built those scales.
Then look at the reflections on the metal surface. The level of detail in this painting is insane.
It's a fun technique. Actually, it's similar to a Bruce Strucitz. That's what he used to use, the electric erasers there. Yes, I like it.
It's just something I noticed on your original art. That extra layer, that's a really accentuates it. It makes it really pop. I mean, not that it doesn't pop on the card, the finished product, right? But on that white mat, you can see it. I mean, it's just really
It's good that you're
Behind the scenes.
I didn't even realize that you could do acrylic through an airbrush. Like, I went to art school. I don't use airbrush, right?
So you could be, when I was doing mostly watercolor designing the jewelry, it was all watercolor. So it would flow through the airbrush really less cleaning. Then I got the Hasbro. I was like, oh, you can't do that. Yeah, you can. And then they started making airbrush colors here with acrylics too. And airbrush different companies had that. So you could, but you still got to clean. You use a little bit and then you kind of flush it out. They pull the needle out too. I have an eye water, very expensive eye water. I just clean the needle out, shove that back. Then I also use an Aztec. Because I can, you know what those are? Well, the Aztec, you can take the tip out and then clean it and then throw another tip in. It's made out of plastic. Okay. And so, I don't even know if they sell them in there.
They stopped making them.
They did. Okay. But I have like a dozen of them. So anybody want to buy any? Secondary
market, they cost more now. If we
$3,000.
learned anything from the robo
You want to check
sculptor.
eBay on those?
Yeah, you get, well, you keep it.
I really should let the guys get back down to their booths. It's 2:00. We've exhausted our panel. Thank you. This is a great turnout for a panel. Please stop by and visit Doug either at Longbow or Recall's booths. Again, they've got prints of all the Longbow stuff. Doug would be happy to sign it for you. And just come and talk his ear off, man. It's his first time being here, and he loves meeting you guys. I'll be back. So, yeah, he'll be here next year too. We've already confirmed it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.